Imagine this. You're trapped between two wooden boats, your body covered in milk and honey. At first, nothing happens, but then the insects arrive, and they don't leave. Now imagine something even stranger. A courtroom where the criminal Soma isn't human. It's a pig, dressed in clothes, standing trial like a person. Or worse, what if your punishment was not death, but being completely erased? Your name gone, your face scratched out, as if you never existed. These sound like nightmares, but they weren't. They were real punishments, used in real societies, on real people. And some of them are far more disturbing than you'd expect. Scaphism. There's a kind of punishment that doesn't rush anything. It just lets time do the work. In the ancient Achaemenid Empire, a method existed that was designed not to kill quickly, but to keep you alive. A person would be placed between two hollow wooden boats, their body trapped, unable to move. You couldn't escape. You couldn't even turn. At first, it didn't feel like torture, just uncomfortable, strange. Then came the part that changed everything. They were force-fed milk and honey, and the same mixture was poured over their body, not to help them but to attract something else. Insects. At first, just a few, then more, and more. And this is what made it terrifying. It wasn't instant pain, it was the waiting, the slow realization that this wasn't going to stop. This method was known as scaphism, and it turned time itself into the punishment. Damnatio memoria. Now consider something far stranger, a punishment that doesn't touch your body at all. In ancient Rome, there was something called damnatio memoriae. It wasn't about pain, it was about erasure. Statues destroyed, names removed from records, faces scratched out from stone. Imagine walking through a place where you once existed and finding no trace of yourself, no memory, no proof. And sometimes, people knew this was coming. Imagine living your final days knowing everything you ever were would be deliberately removed, not just forgotten, erased. Because in a strange way, being remembered is a kind of existence, and losing that feels like disappearing twice. The ducking stool. It usually began with a crowd gathering, near water, waiting, not for a celebration, but for a punishment. You're tied to a wooden chair, held firmly in place. Slowly, you're lowered toward the water. At first, it's just cold. Then suddenly, you're submerged, pulled back up, just long enough to breathe, to gasp, and then pushed under again. This was the ducking stool. Now imagine the people watching, some laughing, some shouting, some treating it like entertainment. Your struggle becomes their spectacle. And maybe that's what makes it so strange. It wasn't hidden. It was meant to be seen. The scold's bridle. Here's something unsettling. A punishment designed not to stop actions, but to silence words. In parts of medieval Europe, there was a device called the scold's bridle, an iron cage locked around the head. But inside, he was something worse. A metal spike pressed directly against the tongue. So the moment you tried to speak, even slightly, you felt it. Pain just for forming words. Imagine wanting to explain yourself, to defend yourself, to say anything at all, the truth. But your own voice becomes the reason you suffer. It's strange, isn't it? Not controlling behavior, Tanchi, but controlling expression itself. Making sure you stay silent. The cangue. Picture yourself in the middle of a crowded street, but something is wrong. You try to move normally, but you can't. Around your neck is a massive wooden board, heavy, restricting, inescapable. This was the cangue, used in ancient China, a punishment that didn't isolate you sauce, but forced you into public view. You couldn't lie down. You couldn't eat without help. Even standing became exhausting, and written across the board was your crime. So everywhere you went, people didn't just see you, they judged you. Imagine feeling hungry, but being unable to feed yourself, waiting, hoping someone would help, because if they didn't, you simply went without. It wasn't just punishment, it was dependence, exposure, a slow, constant reminder that everyone was watching. Was the trial of animals. This one feels almost impossible to believe, but it happened. In medieval Europe, animals were put on trial. Not symbolically, not as a joke. Seriously, imagine a courtroom where the accused is a pig. It would be given a lawyer. Arguments would be made, judgment would be passed, and sometimes the animal was found guilty, punished, even executed. Now pause for a moment and picture that scene. A system of law trying to bring order, even to things that couldn't understand it. It sounds absurd, but maybe it shows how far people were willing to go to make sense of chaos. The drunkard's cloak. And then there were punishments that didn't rely on pain at all. Imagine walking through a busy street with everyone staring at you, not because of who you are, but because of what you're wearing. A wooden barrel wrapped around your body. This was the drunkard's cloak. No chains, no physical harm, just humiliation. People laughing, pointing, whispering as you pass, and there's nothing you can do to stop it because the punishment isn't about hurting you. It's about making sure everyone remembers. And sometimes that stays with you longer than pain ever could. When you look at all of these, it's easy to call them cruel or strange or even ridiculous, but every one of these punishments was created by people who believed they were doing the right thing, maintaining order, teaching lessons, controlling behavior, which makes you wonder, what if hundreds of years from now, people look back at our world and think the same thing? Because history doesn't just show us the past, it quietly reflects who we are. And some of the strangest punishments might not be behind us. If you enjoy exploring stories like these, the darker, stranger side of history, make sure to hit like, subscribe to Blur Frame, and don't forget to turn on the bell icon so you don't miss what comes next. There are more stories like this, and some of them are even harder to believe.